to the Drew Sutton Leadership Show, lighting the way with real leaders, real stories, and real impacts. Because when leaders stop growing, the darkness wins. All right, welcome back to another amazing episode of the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. Today, we're going to be answering the question, what happens when leaders stop treating goals as wish lists and start using them as operating systems for people, culture, and sustainable growth? To answer that question, we have Richard Lewine. He is the founder of RSL Consulting Group and a strategic leadership mentor who helps businesses turn vision and executable goals into executable goals. With decades of experience in leadership development, hiring and alignment, succession, and organizational culture, Richard believes sustainable success always starts with people. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Richard.
Good morning, and thank you, Drew. That's a nice intro. Absolutely.
All right. So I'm super excited to have you on the show. We were put together by my friend Daniel Andrews. Whenever Daniel says, hey, you should meet somebody, I always say, sure. And you and I had a great conversation about your wealth of experience in leadership and people and just practically, how do I take myself and become the leader that I need to be? How did you get into that? Did you wake up one day, you're playing basketball out on the streets and said, man, I want to get into leadership coaching? How did you get into this game?
Yeah, basketball. Actually, it was football, touch football on the street, broken fingers to prove it.
There we go.
But that didn't really take me here. I spent a lot of years in the apparel textile industry, which almost doesn't exist here in the States anymore. But what I experienced was the hateful treatment that the leaders of those people, of those organizations, gave their people. If it was a penny more or a penny less, and there was a person involved, well, the penny was much more important than the person. So I had enough of that. I said, wait a minute, there's got to be a better way. These leaders, managers, whatever they call themselves, all they're doing is destroying humanity. So what I did was answered an ad in the Wall Street Journal. Leadership Management International, LMI, 65 years in business, 90 countries, 30 languages. They were looking for somebody. I bought a distributorship, and the rest is history.
I love it. I was not expecting that answer, actually. That's I have a moral aversion to people that extract their yearly profit from the people that work from them. Like so often. Now, I always tell people this story. My first child cost me $0, and we spent 3 days in the hospital when she was born. And then 10 years later, my last child cost me, I think, $5,000, and we stayed a day and a half in the hospital. And my companies, had steady quarterly earnings and profit margins, but my healthcare went up about a full house worth of mortgage over that time period.
I believe it. Yeah. And I heard, from what I understand when I read these statistics, this one I haven't read in quite a while, but at one point, the average child, to take them to out of school, if they go to college, about 22 years old, is about $2 million. That's all, just about 2 million. So you did well, 5,000, and healthcare.
Well, they're going to college now, so yes, I'm starting to experience that.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, so you got business leadership. What was the name of the company again?
LMI, Leadership Management International. I am still with them. They make the finest supportive product for leadership management and productivity improvement. Just absolutely dynamite. So awesome. In addition to that, what happened was I started with those as a good foundation, since I was in an entirely different business, having nothing to do with people, essentially. As an outgrowth of my early introduction, every time I worked with a group of supervisors, middle managers, they would keep pointing up. Every time I said, well, what's happening here, and how come this isn't happening? Why aren't the goals? They just kept pointing up. Just something here is crooked. The picture is crooked. Something's rotten in Denmark, or if you're old enough, it goes, anyhow. So I just decided I have to find out what this is all about. And since the owner leader of the organization, and I specialize in small to mid-size, anywhere from 5 to 250 people. That's my sweet spot. I have to be able to talk to the leader, or it's not fun for me. And I will tell you right up, if it isn't fun, I'm not doing it,
There you
because
go.
most of my waking hours are right here or in the business. So I found out that there was a lot missing for these people in middle and frontline management to get their job done. And it came from because it was not done upstairs, so to speak.
All right.
That's
Well, all right. So I'm going to pull that string because I run into this a lot. Middle managers say they kind of they fall into the category of I was really great at what I did, and then I got promoted, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. So that's a training gap on their side. But then sometimes it's a and upper management is doesn't care. Um, in your experience, as you've gone up the monkey tree, oh, let's explain that in a little bit. A couple years ago, an organization is like a tree full of monkeys. When you look, you're on the top and you're looking down, all you see is smiling faces. But when you're on
yeah.
the bottom and you look up, it's a different view.
Very true.
So, is the monkey tree leaders at the top not realize the pain, or do they not care? In your experience, as you've worked with all these different organizations, is it an ignorance problem or is it a willful ignorance problem?
Yes, yes, and yes. And
Oh,
when one of the first things that I work at helping the leader, owner, whatever their title do, is turn the org chart upside down so that they understand that their job is to support their people, not the other way around. Because if the people who are facing the customer, the client, whatever they use to identify the one that's paying the bills, if they don't have the tools and the support they need, then there's going to be a lot of problems. So each leader owner, even looking at a regular chart, is Atlas. They're holding up the rest of the organization. Once they get that, and it sometimes takes 2 years for them to get that,
hmm.
uh, things begin to turn around the way they need to be. Does that
So
help?
no, it does help. It does help. But what I also run into, because I work with leaders as well, is a lot of times
What?
leaders,
I'm sorry.
a lot of
I
times
don't take
leaders,
myself too seriously. You just let's get that straight up front.
well, so
Go ahead.
a lot of leaders don't see it as their problem. I mean, the way that I hear it all the time is, I have this people problem. Can you solve Greg? Can you solve Sarah?
Mm.
Sally's about to leave. George is about to leave. How do I find somebody to replace them? In the leader's mind, a lot of times, all they're seeing is that my people have this problem, and
Hmm.
I'm just frustrated with them, and I have to deal with their problem. But if you look at the world with the upside down pyramid, if you look at it with the org chart where I'm holding everybody else and supporting everybody, I have, as a leader, I have to make that emotional shift or that mental shift. What are
Yes.
some of the stories or what are some of the ways that you help me as a leader see the organization from a different perspective?
A tough question because it varies with each organization, each industry, each individual. However, uh, when we go in to begin leadership or management development, it is not well, responding to what you're describing when the leader says, fix them, fix them, fix them.
Right.
We can't quote, well, first of all, we can't fix them unless they want to be
Mm.
fixed using that word.
Oh, yes.
Um,
Totally agree with that.
but what happens is without the support of leadership in one form or another, they're not going to get fixed because they don't live in a vacuum. It is not an autonomous situation that they're in. Even the best run organizations, the leader has to be involved in what's happening because they've created the culture in which those people are either flourishing, developing, getting things done because they understand why they're being asked to do what they're doing, or they don't, and then they begin to flounder, and then productivity goes down, and then Gallup's polls become true, where 70% are disengaged. I mean, really, it doesn't need to be that way if leadership is systemic, meaning that organizationally in various pockets and levels, whatever, people have to have their own personal leadership first, And what it takes is somebody believing in them and that they have value for that to happen. So that's how we begin to get it. We get the leader to understand, hey, it's not all about you. It's about all of you, not all about you. It's a mindset. As you said earlier, when you turn the thing upside down, it's a mindset switch. So that's how we begin to get it done. Get you involved with the people. In fact, we have the triangle of communications where when we're doing either the productivity improvement or the leadership and management development, the triangle of communication, our programs run from 3 to 9 months, some of them longer.
Okay.
Every other session or 3 times during a program or 8 times, depending, the leader of the participant and I, or me, whatever the right grammar is, meet to review what's happened so far. How do you want it to go from here? And do you both agree that that is the way it needs to go? If that doesn't happen, it becomes, the shoemaker's kids have no shoes is how it ends up.
Yeah, no, I run into that a lot. I run into that a lot. I call it a what-when conversation and a who-how conversation. And in my mind, it's a plus sign. And I say, as the owner, you get to, or as the boss, you get to own what and when needs to be done. This needs to be done by this date. And then I ask my team who needs to be involved and how are we going to knock this out? And I try to give them that ownership. And I found that if you own too many of those 4 questions, it becomes micromanagement and people can't stand it. They feel compressed and and a lot of times you tell them, I want it done this way. And that's just the wrong way to do it because there's some unique circumstance on the ground that they see that you don't. And if you don't give them enough of that information, then they will get it done. They just won't get it done on the right time, or done won't mean what you thought it meant. No, communication is a big one.
A very big one. And done relates to turkeys better than to the work.
I'm going to steal that. That's hilarious. Okay. I actually say done is a 4-letter word, right? Like that's one of the first words of our, just and done and sync. People will be like, well, we need to sync up. I'm like, I don't know that you know what that means. I know what I mean.
Right. Yeah, for me, that's a whole pile of dishes that are wet. That's what a sink is.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Oh,
I'm the cleanup guy around here. That's why that works.
That's funny. Okay, so when you walk into an organization and you meet their employees for the first time, I like to do a little bit of an intro interview with folks and just talk to a sampling of people throughout the organization. And I'm looking for a couple of red flags. One of the red flags, or green flags, depending if they get it right, is I ask everybody, especially at the very bottom layer, I'm like, hey, what's your values? What's the company values? Or, what do you all do here? And I just listen to whatever they say. And if what they say is radically different than what the blue paint on the wall says that they do, that gives me a sign that we haven't properly communicated throughout all of the ranks. So not everybody is aligned. So for me, that's a red flag. Does the frontline worker and the first level manager, do they know what the company does and what the company core values are? If they don't have a way to speak that out in their own mouth, like in their own vernacular, I think that, there's a problem here. We haven't communicated up and down the chain. So that's a flag for me. And I know you're all about people. So are there any flags you look for as you're going into an organization to kind of get a signal about what might be happening in management?
Yeah. I find first, the one you've got is a good one, which is why one of the first things we do when we really get into it is help leadership. And it's depending on the size of the organization, no more than 5 people, but the boss, whatever his or her title, has to be there, is to articulate a vision, a paint by the numbers picture of here's where we want to be in 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years. And there's 10 elements involved. In fact, my website that's the foundation of my website, is vision articulation. Because without that picture for everyone, from the leader to the frontline worker, forget the supervisor, they don't know why they're being asked to do anything. So how much does anyone want to put into it if they don't know why, or where it's going to go, or what's in it for them? So they're the same kinds of red flags. The other, a giant one, is people reluctant to take bad news up, even one
Mm.
level, or even to their own immediate manager or supervisor, whatever their title. Something if they're hiding, they're all acting like I'm looking for an active word here. Um, Anyhow, they're acting like introverts in the extreme. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. And when
Yeah.
things go wrong, if they're afraid to talk about it, there's a problem, and it starts at the top. And that's the culture stuff. So the vision is the beginning of that. And then you got to bring people in, and you have to decide strategically how do we have to be positioned in order to have the vision become real. And then we have to let that degenerate. God bless Peter Drucker. He said, decisions are good intentions until they degenerate into work. Well, what is work? Work are goals. That's what creates work. You know what to do, when to do it, how much to do it, how long you should do it. So creating a system of executable organizational goals, it actually, and while it's hard work, especially the first or second time, it makes people happy. Why does it make them happy, you might ask? Because
Yeah.
they know why they're there. That's why it's a wonderful process. And that'll, at the end, I'm going to give that away. That's going to be one of my freebies, the way to get that done.
Yeah, no. So stick around for the end. Figuring out how to keep your workers happy, fully engaged through goal setting and goals. That's a fantastic giveaway we have here at the end. I'm going to tell a quick story around goals, and I just want to riff on this concept for a little bit
Sure.
because I think that most leaders resist goals. I think that a lot of leaders, they were a middle manager at some point, and they didn't like the types of goals they were been given, and so they said, when I get there, whatever there is, when I get to
Mhm.
that level, I'm not going to be that bad boss. And so then they miss out on this beautiful tool. All right, so here's the story. My best friend Pat, software engineer, brilliant guy. I was his manager. We were good friends, but one day we're having drinks, and he goes, "Well, Drew, all management is fundamentally a waste of time. Like metrics and management, it's all just a waste of time." And from his perspective was, I can either do work or I can give you the metrics and the reports that you want so that you can feel good about the work that I'm doing. And it was an interesting and fun dialogue. We were having a good time. So then we go when we start playing darts. And as we're playing darts, I get the upper hand and I end up winning the game of darts. And as I put the final score on the board, I just looked at Pat and I said, "Yeah, I agree. Metrics don't matter." But the truth is, we all love metrics. Not
You
only do we
betcha.
kind of like them, when they're done right, we will jump off of our couch on a Saturday or on a Sunday and scream at the football, at the
Hmm.
football TV because we are obsessed with metrics and we're obsessed with rules when it comes to playing a game. But then we go to work and we muddle it and we don't have the same enthusiasm. And I think this is what you're kind of getting at, that goals make people happy. Get people excited. So how do you architect goals so that people feel like they can win?
First, I have to help them understand, if they don't already, that without a system of goals, our only motivation is survival.
Mm,
That's what it amounts to. So, if you want to do more than just survive in your job, in your family, in your life generally, you need to have a system of goals that cover all six primary areas of that we all have in living. One of them is in career and finance and your job. How are you going to survive? We're back to it in this world that is driven by money to a great extent.
yeah,
Love and money, love and money. They're the two things that seem to make it go around.
yeah,
Um, so if we first help them do that, and then if the workforce at every level, and I just use the term the workforce is just the people in the organization, and it happens to include the leaders. They're just part of the workforce. If the goals of the organization's leaders and drivers are not clear and they have not articulated to them, then these people are sitting there not knowing what to do and they are sad. I came to work to do something. I love my discipline. I love my craft. I love my art, whatever it is, but I can't apply it here because I don't know what these people want. So they get that understanding, and we can convert their um, information, their missing information, to some level of executable goals because they do have some kind of expectation in order to get a paycheck. They're going to do something. It could be being on an assembly line. It could be sitting behind a desk doing spreadsheets. Okay, let's take the spreadsheets. What is it that you're putting on the spreadsheets? Is it number of new accounts? Is it number of seconds or rejects? Is it number of cars in the parking lot? What is it you're tracking? And is it better if you have more or less of those things you're tracking? So when you're here every day, what is it that you're trying to achieve, increase, or reduce? And do you know how many or how much in what period of time you're getting that done? No, I just keep doing it. Okay, how does that feel? Well, I don't know. It's just not, I'm a wandering generality. I don't know what I'm doing here. Okay, so let's start with that. Our process starts with crystallize your thinking. What is this job all about? In general terms, whatever comes out of your head, no judgments, no spelling doesn't count, and we have to have them write it down.
Yes.
And I mean write it down, not type it. Until you get really internalize and assimilate this technology of goal setting, you're not going to get it unless it goes up your arm to your brain. You're just not, and that's scientifically proven. That's just not just me. So we get them begin crystallize what is this about, what is supposed to come out the other end, and again, how much, how often, and etc. From there, we ask them to identify which of 8 key result indicators best tells you how you're doing. Because you only have 3 choices. You can know you're doing well, you can know you're not doing well, or you can not know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I hear you saying, workforce, is you don't know. Well, what can you do with I don't know? Not much. If you look at the scores in the current soccer, football, depending on, I'm not a follower of it, so it could be more football than soccer. And they're getting goals, and it's a low scoring game. One goal can make the difference. But if you don't know what to do on the pitch. Because these guys are running around like crazy, banging heads and feet and all kinds of stuff. Well, what do they want to do? Is it going to be offense, defense? What is it? So knowing how you're doing is the critical factor. And if you don't know, you're at sea, so to speak. And it could be a rough day on the ocean.
No, I love that. It strikes me as you're talking that, and this kind of goes to the problem that I hear everybody say, it's so hard to find good help these days. So whenever I talk to a new client in kind of our discovery call, it's always these 3 things. Can you help me with marketing? The answer is yes, I can help you with marketing, but that's not your problem. Can you help me with people? The answer is that's what I do best. And 100% we can get you that problem solved for you. And then can you help me figure out AI? Which the answer is also yes, but again, that you're missing the point.
Yeah. I'm laughing because it's so true.
Yeah, because they want to go to the symptom, but the problem here is a lack of clarity on goals. And it's way more expensive than you say, because 70% of people don't feel connected to their job. I can't remember the exact quote that you quoted earlier, but I've heard that number. I've also heard that like 30% of people are actively looking for new jobs, and then another percentage are wishing they would. They just don't know where to start. In other words, most of your workforce isn't engaged at work.
That's
right.
But
the people that are making the moves are your best people. So when you look at your bell curve distribution of people, there's the kind of the center block of your really good workers that could be doing amazing work for you. They're loyal. They just want to come in for a paycheck. Then there's your top performers and the folks that you want to get rid of. If you're not articulating, hey, this is what we do here, guys. This is how we're going to win the next, World Cup or the next national championship. We're planning to win. We have a plan to win. The only people that are leaving your organization, it's not the bottom 10%. It's not the middle 90%. It's the top 10%. You're always losing your best people, which is way more expensive than just losing 10% of your people.
It sure is, because all of the IP of your organization is going out the door with them.
That's
Whether
right.
it's on paper or copyright, or it doesn't matter what it is, patent, doesn't make any difference. It went out the door with them. And your non-competes are almost useless today. very difficult to enforce a
Oh yeah.
non-compete. So don't even bother worrying about that. So how do you fix that? Well, it's not an easy fix. When we work with an organization, remember the size. For us, it's about 15 to 200 or 250 in that range. Sweet spot is 50 to 75 people. If three people leave, you have lost 5% of your organization already. The numbers are round. I like
Right.
estimates
Right.
and round numbers. They work best for me. So the first thing you need to do is hire, promote, and transfer appropriately. What does that mean? That means match the attributes of the people you're bringing in or moving around to what you're going to ask them to do in this job. And the reality is that most of the angst that is created in an organization is because of poor job matching. The leaders say, I need a warm body over here, and we have three people we're missing over here, and I have to have five more salespeople and whatever. They're just looking for protoplasm to put in a chair. Well, protoplasm doesn't work by itself because it's got stuff that goes on inside. That
Right.
inside needs to be, and we're talking cognitive skill as well as personality. So you need a way to get the right people with the right attributes into the slots so that they are in fact productive. And what do you think will happen if they're productive? How will
Oh,
they feel?
oh, they'll feel top of the world. They'll come home every day. They'll tell their wife, their kids, their husband, their spouse how great a day they
Exactly.
had. Yeah.
You get the prize. And getting them to the place where they feel good is helping them understand why you're asking them to do what they do, which you hired them for in the first place, I hope.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's part of the issue there.
All
And
right. So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
well, yeah,
I like your,
I was gonna
your
double click on
questions.
that concept. So when I have a role, um, I read this really interesting article about a garbage company in, I think it was in England or it was in Ireland
Pardon
or
me.
somewhere, is UK. Um, Hiring a garbage man's hard because it's a very dirty, stinky, potentially dangerous job. A lot of labor, physical labor, but it starts at 5 a.m. So you have to have this self-disciplined person that can show up every day at the right time to get fairly minimal pay and do this pretty intense physical job. And their solution was they discovered one of their employees was the best employee. So they asked him. Turns out he was an MMA fighter, and so he said, "Listen, you guys are paying me to do my workout." So he would work on the garbage truck, lift his heavy weights in the morning, and then he would go to the gym and lift and do the gym thing, and then he'd get back and do it the next day. So over time, they replaced their entire garbage man population with MMA fighters, and they had amazing outsized success for it. So to you, when you have a company that has a lot of people in the wrong seats, all right, this salesperson is an introvert, this engineer is an extrovert, or whatever the situation is. I mean, that's kind of a nightmare to fix. How do you go about finding the right people, and when you have a group of people, how do you go about rejuggling them?
First, you have to be willing to face reality.
Oh,
And the reality, which is hard
yeah,
and that doesn't matter what level you're on in life. Sometimes, I mean, there's a lot of denial that goes on. The world is loaded with it.
wow,
However,
yeah,
um, we have a tool that can help. It's a tool. And the same is true of AI, which you mentioned a little earlier. I love AI. It's a wonderful thing, but it can only be used as a tool. If you think you're going to depend on it and make a fortune, forget about it. It just isn't going to work that way. And anyway, back to the people. You need to assess who they are, how their brain works, and how their body works, and how they interact with other people, whether it's internal or external to the organization. Everybody is interacting with another human being to one degree or another. The guy on the garbage truck, I came into the building. I had to go out early this morning, came back into the building. We're in Florida. We have palm trees, lots of palm trees. There was a guy trimming a palm tree. He asked, "How you doing today?" I said, "Pretty good for an old guy. How you doing?" He said, "Thanks for asking." That's the first thing. No one asks the guy who's trimming a palm tree how he's doing. That's
mm,
the first thing I always ask. Um, I said, "Well, we appreciate your work." I said, but it's really hot. Make sure you have enough water today. He says, I have no choice. That's how people look at the jobs that they're in. He has no choice. Yes, it's going to be 95 degrees today, and he is in the sun. You think he's in the shade? Palm trees don't give much shade. And
Right.
he is working. So you have to find out, how do they fit in the role you're asking them. We have a tool that helps identify that. And what you have to do is not allow the people to continue to be in denial. You have to have open conversation. We're back to culture, right where we started.
Yeah.
If the culture doesn't allow open conversation, you're stuck. That's what it's about.
Well, so let's talk about culture. Culture is super near and dear to my heart. We're both Peter Drucker fans. I only fanboy over two people. That's Peter Drucker and a guy named Dan Martell.
Okay.
Absolutely love Peter Drucker,
Does,
and he
does
he
Dan
blew
know
my
that?
mind. Say again?
Does Dan know that?
No, I don't think Dan knows that. I don't think I'm big enough for Dan to know that. Um, but
Okay.
Dan wrote this book called "Buy Back Your Time," which I kind of think that he goes too far with the concept of buying back your time, but he's hyper into empowering his team and growing his company to make room for the aspirations of his people, and I think it's fantastic. Um, Peter Drucker says culture eats strategy for breakfast. Now, the way I explain this to people is I coached my daughter's U12 soccer team. And at U12, U10, U8 sports, you're not trying to win the game. You're trying to get the kid to dribble the ball, right? You're trying to get the kid to pass the ball. Like those are the big wins.
Right.
We're not trying to do a 4-point play with a couple of screens and some rolls and a layup. We're just trying to get the kid to dribble down the court. Um, so, and that speaks to culture. What you can only do, whatever you can only do things in your organization that your culture enables, the skill of your people and the teamwork of your people enable. Now, some leaders look at their culture and they complain about their people. We've kind of already talked about this. Oh, what are you showing me here?
Well, it's backwards. Unfortunately, maybe we
Oh,
can read it this way. No, it says force of nature. If you can think about your work and the world you're in and the job you're doing and the company you're dealing with as a force of nature and deal with it in a natural way, you're going to be ahead of the game. This came out
right.
of an AI full day workshop from a family office leader. Unbelievable. So there's a lot more than this, but it struck me. That's all. It just struck me. Force of nature. Wow. And that we are nature. We
Yeah.
got to get our strength. We're nature. So tap it. Okay. I'm getting a little carried away here. Go
No,
ahead.
I
I
love this. So
interrupted you.
no, this is what I tell all of my team. Somebody is controlling all of my clients. I tell them somebody's controlling the culture of your organization, and it's fine if it's not you directly. Like there's a really big organization. They sell kind of like a Mary Kay. They do parties and stuff. And I won't name the company, but the person that owns the culture of that organization is actually about two rungs down, and she is they call her the heartbeat of the organization, and that's great. I think it's great. The leadership
Yeah.
recognizes that she kind of owns that charisma and that feeling of the organization, and they bring her into all the strategic conversations, and she speaks for the sales reps, right? So she kind of owns that. But I've been in other organizations where the most negative person on the team, sometimes they're the most aggressive person, sometimes they're like kind of the backbiting gossip of the organization, sometimes with the negative person down in production that's complaining about the fact that management's a bunch of idiots. Somebody is managing the culture in your organization. Um, how can you ensure that your organization shows up as a force of nature?
It has to start at the top. We're back to the same thing. I mean, we can dance around and talk about all this other stuff. Everything else we're discussing is an outcome, and it's an outcome of leadership's value system. And if the leaders, and I'm not just one person necessarily, but certainly in my size organization that I work with, yes, it is usually one or two people who are the de facto ultimate leaders, ultimate decision makers, in order to make sure that the negative influencer, informal leader, because I keep tripping because there's so many things going on in an organization.
Yeah.
And everything there's no discrete separable event in an organization. There just are none. Everything is connected. The knee bone's connected to the shin bone, to the ankle bone, to the toe bone. It's just one organism, and it is, in fact, an organism. And
Yeah.
we are the cells. We are the sinew. We are the bones of this thing, this organism. So if you're going to get it straightened out, you've got to begin at the beginning when it was created. And it isn't the bricks and mortar, if it's a bricks and mortar organization, and it isn't the electrons in the computers or any of that stuff. And the reason that the remote workers in many organizations, despite the call back to the office, in many organizations, remote workers are highly successful. They feel wonderful because they have time to do for themselves and their families and whatever else they want to do, and remain highly productive if they're matched to the job. We're back to matching to the job. And all of that is set up by leadership when it does its thing, which is vision, strategy, goal system, structure, and people matching. It's 5 things. They all have to happen for it to run like a well-oiled machine. And that's what an organization is. If it's running well, it's a well-oiled machine. And by the way, don't use WD-40 if you can use 3-in-1, because they're very different. And I don't know if anybody's old enough here to know about 3-in-1. WD-40 will penetrate, but it'll clog up. 3-in-1 will lubricate and keep on lubricating. I don't know. I just threw that in there. I don't know why, but we want to be 3-in-1.
No, I think that speaks to the quick fixes that everyone looks for. I have fired a couple of clients because at the end of the day, they weren't looking out for the best interest of their people. They said they're looking for the quarterly result.
That's right.
And so I get a little bit frustrated. I think, as much as I love Peter Drucker, I think that Jack Welch is the father of the downfall of the modern organization.
Get rid of the lower 10%.
Right. Why? Shareholder value. The ultimate goal of the business is shareholder value. Now, to be sure, a major goal of an organization is profit, 100%. And if you're creating great value,
a major goal.
Correct. But and this is another Peter Drucker, while it's not the job of the organizational leader to make a healthy culture, and this is talking about a community, to make a healthy community, no business can operate in an unhealthy community. And the implied statement there is that as leaders of an organization, especially a small organization, we are funding and empowering and encouraging and then setting people up in the right jobs, and that those people become the community that we live in. So there is a cycle where it comes back. It's not just profit.
No discrete separable event. Paul Pullman in 2010 became chairman, CEO of Unilever. Okay. Up until his tenure, they produced quarterly results like everybody else. He came in, went to the board and said, guess what? You're not getting quarterly results from me. What I'm going to be focused on for my tenure, and you can not bring me in if you don't want this to happen, I am going to be focusing on our people. They didn't get a quarterly report for the 10 years that he was the CEO. All he did was give a 220% return to the shareholders at the end of his tenure without a quarterly report. That's your culture.
Yes.
On that note, yes. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it's probably a sustainable one as opposed to
it's still happening. He left in 2019.
Right. Yeah.
It's called responsible, sustainable leadership. That's what that's called.
So do you think AI, I have a secret hope that AI can remove a lot of friction in the organizations. And if we choose to use it correctly, we could, a lot of the frictions that happen, I talked about the what, when, and the who, how conversation. There's so many friction points in an organization, and people get so irritated those little things, right? And we're not pouring energy into training them. I think AI, more than productivity, AI offers this opportunity to help us remove the friction and to become better partners with each other and to do our individual job better. And so I'm encouraged and hopeful that the leaders over the next decade can dip into good, sustainable leadership. Do you think people will use AI that way, or what do you think is holding us back from all behaving like the CEO of Lever?
Fear.
Fear.
Mhm.
That's a powerful answer. Fear
People
of
are afraid to be wrong.
ah,
People are afraid they won't get their paycheck. People are confused. I call it cuffed. CUFD. Confused, uncertain, fearful, and doubtful. Cuffed. And the world is pervaded by cuffed at the moment. There's a lot of all of those things going on. The only way to mitigate the downside of being cuffed, dealing with confusion, uncertainty, fear, and doubt, is to take action. Here we are, back to goals. It's about setting goals that are realistic. And if you're not making the progress that you'd like to make and are capable of making, remember, matching capability to requirements. If you're not making the progress you'd like to make and are capable of making, it's because your goals are not clearly defined. That's the bottom line there. And the founder of LMI, the first group we talked about, is where that quote comes from. Paul J. Meyer. This guy was amazing. That's another, I have two, Drucker and Meyer instead of Martelli. I was at a convention, one of my first with him. I had just started with him, and I was still selling fabric at the time in the apparel industry, doing great, a lot of money, nothing left in here because they ate it up. Paul J. Meyer stood at the front of the room. He said, "Lewine," that's me, "when are you going full time?" That's how you get things done. I said, "March." This was December. Guess what I had to do by March? Goal was clearly defined. I committed to somebody who I respected. It got done. I haven't looked back. So I'm still with him. I've expanded what I do, but I'm still there. He unfortunately left us 10 years ago. But that's part of life too. Okay.
No, we're running out of the time of the show here, so I'm gonna have to cut us off here.
So.
But what a great moment to end on. I myself have had a couple of leaders in my life that have challenged me to put a date to the thing that I was talking about. And in one case, I was like, good call. This is not what I actually want to do. And you're putting a date to it forced me to admit, nope, I'm not going to, let's move on. And in the other case, I said, oh, this is the time. And I put out my resume, and it ended up in this whirlwind journey that brought me to Texas and got me 30 patents and is the reason I got to be a chief engineer at Lockheed. It's because a friend of mine, a mentor, said, listen, get out there, put your resume out there. What a powerful thought that we as leaders, not only do we set goals for our people, which, as you said earlier in the show, give people purpose and engagement and excitement, and it lets them come home feeling accomplished for the day, but it'll actually change our lives. In your case, the reason you got off the midway bandwagon and jumped into it is because the mentor that you respected.
Exactly.
Man,
that's right.
What a good one. Well, like I said, we're out of time for the show. I'm going to give you the next 2 minutes. Floor is yours, and then I'll close us out.
Okay. Thank you for that. And in summation, what it really is about understanding who you are. One needs to develop their personal leadership, know who you are, know where you're going, know how you're getting there, and know why you're going. And then you can get some people to follow you. If you don't know those things and you can't articulate them to other people, why should anyone do whatever you're asking them to do? You haven't proven that this stuff is going to work. And it's not about hard, solid proof, because very little in this world, except a tangible desktop or something, is stable all the time. We're dealing with unknowns. We're dealing with uncertainty, with fear, with doubt, all of those things. And if you can develop a system of of both personal and organizational goals, which are aligned, if you as a leader can help your people create their goals so that they get feedback, and rewards and benefits for helping to achieve organizational goals, that is a win-win deal. And in fact, when we work with our organizations, both the leader, decision maker, and the participants for any program that they're in have to create and sign off on an upfront win-win agreement. This is what I'm going to commit to for this period of time. Here are the challenges I'm facing. Here are the goals that I need to achieve in order to meet those challenges, overcome the obstacles and challenges that are in the way to get to where my leader, manager, boss, whatever title you have, wants us to be. These are the things that need to happen. And that person, needs to absolutely, needs to absolutely help me and support me. This is the workforce talking. The leader of the organization, the unit, the workforce, the department, the division needs to be involved when I am setting my goals. If they don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing, the way I'm doing it, they can't help. That's really the bottom line.
I love it. I love the clarity of that. I love the fact that you've been doing this for literally decades now.
Yeah.
We both are in the coaching world and the organizational development world, and it is nice to have somebody with your depth of experience. So if you're on the show right now and you're listening here, Richard's being modest. He has been doing this for a long time. If you're looking for somebody that has a proven track record, who's been through the ups and downs of uncertain markets, who knows his stuff inside and out, and has the ability to immediately just jump to the thing that you need to fix in your organization now, give Richard a call. I put his LinkedIn bio. It's just linkedin.com/in/Richard S. Lewine. And it's in the comments. Reach out to him. Tell him you saw him on the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. Tell him that you're ready to get your people in the right seats. You're ready to get your culture organized, and you're ready to engage in the power of goals to get your team jazzed up and excited and to execute like you know that they can, and to reach the next level you've been struggling for. That's
Drew,
all we have today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you for being here.
With that, we are out.